Well, Alessia, thank you so much for this nice introduction. And I have to say that I'm really honored to be the host of DLD for the second time now in a row. And but even more honored, I'm to be on stage with Dr. Stella Clarke, who is really a very, very impressive person, who was nominated or became a finalist for the title of World Car Person of the Year, so which I think is an amazing title. Together with her team, she is responsible for one innovation that stole the show 2 times in a row at CES, and that was listed as one of the best innovations in 2022 on the Time list. So really very impressive.
Thank you.
To put it in simple words, I would say it's all about a color-changing car, which is way too simple of what it is finally, but to use simple words for that. And to give you, before we deep dive into the innovation, I would say that we play a little animation, 15 seconds, to show you what this is all about. No? So Stella, from Australia to Bavaria, I think this is quite an amazing trip, even if it sounds pretty similar, Australia and Bavaria, Bavaria, Australia, almost the same letters. I think it's quite a distance to go there. And with a father from New Zealand and a mother from Chinese Indonesia.
Yeah.
Your mother tongue is Maori.
Oh, my dad's mother tongue is Maori, yeah.
So could you make, I'm wearing Ugg boots to make you feel comfortable on stage.
Thank you, it's working, yeah. It's working, then I'll...
But could you maybe give us a little bit of an idea how you came from Australia to Bavaria to become one of the head innovators of BMW?
Sure. So I'd thank you for the wonderful, warm introduction. I'd love to start with Australia, with childhood, upbringing. I do feel that childhood shapes your personality. Personality plays an important role in innovation. So let's start there. I come from a very basic background. My family is rather an uneducated family. My parents didn't study. My dad didn't even finish high school. So we had no books in their house. And I think this is relevant because many engineers you come across or studied people, they kind of grew up in this culture that many young kids built stuff with their families, with their dads or their mums, and I didn't have that. So it kind of shaped me a bit. So the other way around, my parents were quite traditional regarding what girls should do and how they should behave, and that's just a bit different. So I had an interest in how things worked from quite an early age, and I'd always wanted an electronics kit when I was younger as a toy, but I never got it. I got more traditional, women's, girls' toys, which I also enjoyed playing with, but the way I showed my interest in becoming an engineer was interested in how the world works, and I would, before we would throw a device away, I would want to take it apart, look how it works, and I think these were kind of the first signs that it goes in that direction for me. But I do mention this because it is play with your psychology if you have this kind of an upbringing, and I also I do have a little bit of a heart for those who do kind of move into the educated world coming from a rather uneducated background. So fast forward to kind of now, at some point, I learned what an engineer was shortly before I started studying to become one. And my mechanical engineering studies took me around the world, and I ended up doing my PhD here in Germany, in Munich, in the area of haptics, after which I started working at BMW, also in the area of haptics. And I've been with BMW for 16 years.
I think, talking about that, my next question would be around when did you find out to work with an automotive company?
Yeah.
As you're talking about haptics while preparing this conversation, the most I'm envy about in your CV is the title of your doctoral thesis, I have to say.
Okay, yeah.
which is, let me read it out, telecontrol of robots with haptic input device.
Yeah.
I think this is every boy's dream, no?
Yes,
something like that.
Yeah, if you say it.
When did you switch, or did you recognize that automotive and the haptic and individualization of automotive itself is something that you really burn for?
it's hard to explain. It's almost like that, why did I want to take apart a video? It's hard to explain. You just have a certain passion for something. For me, it's kind of small mechatronic things. If I'm honest, I'm not like, I wouldn't be working like on the large mechanical components. I like the small mechatronic things. And then I got a job in interior where it's pretty much a whole array of small mechatronic things. And that's where it started, at least for the topic of haptics.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
So maybe would you like to take us maybe a little bit on the journey of the concrete innovation, which is the color-changing car? Let me see if we have a...
Sure, see if we have a clicker, as we have a few photos, cheers, a few photos to show you. So the color-changing car was successful. We kind of know it's innovative. We won a bunch of innovation awards, and so we kind of know it's innovative. But the very first samples were, if we can get the presentation rolling, quite humble. So they looked like, actually we go, kind of looked like this, you know. You start with an idea, it's just an idea, you have not many resources available, so the first color-changing car kind of started off with these kind of demos, small, handheld things. But at least they were things. It wasn't just a PowerPoint with, I would like this, but it was a prototype. You could give somebody in their hands and they could see what's happening. So in addition to prototyping, and I love prototyping, obviously the electrical thing came later on in life, and I also showed people images. I showed them something like this one. I said, imagine you got into your car and it looked like this, but it's programmable and you can change it on any given day depending on how you feel, the weather, whatever you want. And so with an image like this, people got it. And then I'd say, imagine if you come into your car and you're greeted not only with your name, but with a for you custom created interior. And this was a picture that a lot of people understood. And what we did, the color-changing car thing, was a very emotional topic, and this shows it wonderfully. And the first ideas were functional, and the whole topic turned into something emotional. So this is where people got it. And then I took it a stage further with videos. Let's play this one. Part of a 3-minute pitch that I created. So video editing, I made a very, very embarrassing 3-minute pitch that I pretended to be a YouTube star. I talked in the camera, I video edited, I had epic music in the background. It was very embarrassing, and it was a very hard point for me to send this video to the biggest possible list you could imagine within BMW. But it was a nice moment of boldness, because after that, we went back to prototyping and we made this. So we whacked huge e-ink panels on the side of a car in the most basic shapes you could imagine. And I just sat on the floor, changing the color of the car. And I don't want to get into technical details, but e-ink is pretty amazing. The inspiration for all of this was the e-reader, and knowing that within the e-reader there was a layer that changes its colors. And this is an amazing technology that's been hiding in e-readers for a while. We've kind of taken this out, whacked it on a car, and what you see here is quite simple, but what we did after that, which ended up being the iX Flow, which is the project I'm most proud of. It's the world's first color-changing car. There was a lot of technical challenges in between. I don't want to talk this down, but getting a material like this, which looks easy but is highly complex, has a lot of conductive surfaces that need to stay isolated, it was a challenge. But less than a year later, this is our iX Flow.
May I jump? Okay. Pretty amazing. No wonder that is on the list for the best innovations of the year.
Thank you.
No, but watching these videos, I was wondering where the original spark came from. So the spark came from the e-reader, from the technical side, taking that technique, that engineered stuff to put it on the car. But from the emotional side, was it more like that you plan to bring color back to cars in a black and white and gray scene out there, or was it more coming from the angle of individualization? So that if I share the car with my wife and she likes green and I like red, so is it more coming from the emotional human side, or more from the technical side to make the streets more colorful?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question, because a lot of these things do come from the dreamers, the designers, the artists, but no, I'm an engineer, so this definitely came from the technical side. It came from the fascination for the fact that you can change the color of something with just a little bit of energy. Take the power away, it stays. I mean, no light does that, right? You take the power away, it's off, right? So there was a technical motivation. In addition to that, the first use cases were sensible use cases. They were, information on the exterior of the car. And we all know the feeling of having, a display on the dashboard, and as soon as the sun's shining brightly, you can't see anything. With e-ink, you still see it perfectly. So, and that's a functional thing, it's an informative thing, and those were the first ideas. But what I learned with time is you have to be a little bit more open-minded, and people don't really care for the functionality in this case. For them, it was more of an emotional topic. And so I started off advertising this as functional, informational, useful, but I've learned that the less useful the use case is, the more people tend to like it. Like when the rims change color or the racing stripes come, they're clearly, it's an emotional topic.
So yeah, that's where I would like to turn the conversation to a little bit, because me as a creative, I always try to push people to dream bigger, to, coming from the emotional side, the human side of changing the world. But being aware that, you also need the left side of your head to bring it down to the ground, and to, in your case, to the engineering. What is it from your perspective that innovators need to be, like characteristics, personalities? What is it that everything starts with? Because I think it's not, some people think, well, there's a thunder coming out of galaxy somewhere during the morning shower, and after that, in the afternoon, I'm famous. I'm an innovator.
Right.
This is probably from my perspective not how it happens usually. It's about endurance, it's about pushing. What is from your perspective is like the creative process of an innovator, or the characteristics that an innovator needs to have?
It's a really interesting question. I'm personally very interested in, human behavior, personalities, someone who's kind of moved around a bit from, uneducated to educated, perhaps finding myself in a more male-dominant. So I'm very interested in this topic, and to try and answer it a little bit in a scientific kind of a way, I'd like to talk about this topic based on the big five personality traits. And these are apparently the traits that describe every kind of personality. Like, there's science behind this. And quite recently, I heard Mark Andreessen, the man behind the Netscape Navigator, talk about how innovative people fit into this model. And I've never found myself agreeing with a description so much as this. So I would love to try and explain to you what makes an innovator based on some kind of scientific, or based on this model. So an innovator needs to be high in openness. You've got to be open, for new ideas, obviously. But it's not enough just to be open. If you're open, you could read books, you could talk with other people, network, but it doesn't mean you necessarily make a product out of it. So you also need to be conscientious. You need to be somebody who not only gathers ideas, but turns them into a product and starts making them. And these two traits are kind of conflicting with each other. So it's not super easy to have somebody who's on the one side open, but on the other side has enough focus to kind of drive the ideas into a product. So that's the first thing. And I think it's a niche kind of person that kind of comes into this category. In addition to that, you hinted at it, but innovation, or ideas that are conceived as innovative, it's not as if people had an idea, it worked, it was a cool idea, and the world loved it. It was often a fight, and innovators are often faced with a wall of pessimism. And This means to deal with such a wall of pessimism, you have to have a certain amount of disagreeability. Otherwise, you'll let people talk you out of your idea. You hear a lot of, no, that's stupid, that will never work, it will never meet this, we tried that, no, it just won't work. So a certain amount of disagreeableness is certainly helpful so that you can push your idea.
This is one specific thing I thought, like you coming in from, not putting Australia as a special guy, but coming in from the outside to a company of BMW.
Yeah.
So how the hell did you manage to get through with such an idea which is so out of scope and so disruptive in a way? So have a little bit of that, what you're saying.
Right. Yeah, it's right. And if you're in a big company, it's not only disagreeableness in general, your hierarchy is probably interested in having you do what they want. And it's not some side project, some side hobby project, it's what they, so you all have to be disagreeable in the face of your own hierarchy, which is not easy. It's not an easy thing to do. So disagreeableness. You need a certain amount of intelligence. And I like to extend this to technical knowledge, not just intelligence. I do not claim to be a high IQ person. I have a basic upbringing, and that's often negatively correlated with IQ. I'm open about that. But I think I have a sound technical knowledge. And if you have a sound technical knowledge, then you can decipher or know the difference between if something is really innovative and new, or if something's just flashing lights. And flashing lights, literally in my case, every user interface in the car until now was lights. LEDs are light, displays are light, projectors are light, OLEDs are light, they're all light. And this for me, we got a lot of suppliers coming to us and showing them their innovation, and if you technically in the know, you know when it's it's not really innovative. But for me, e-ink was, so technical knowledge, probably a certain amount of IQ.
I think, if I may jump in again on the IQ, because I'm fascinated from all this, like when we describe creativity, is for me always like coming from two angles. Like we say, like creativity needs wings to fly and wheels to land. So the dualism of creativity. And again, in IQ, would you rather say that you need a certain knowledge that goes deep into the one topic?
Yeah.
And or also the IQ to have a certain overview on the whole thing, on the whole surrounding, and just mentioning like the lights or whatever, that you understand what happens outside the car as well, not only even if you're doing an innovation inside the car.
Right. I personally think it's both, but I think the science is more like the classical way to measure IQ. Okay. But I definitely think it's both, and I think even if you're not high IQ, you can balance it off with other things. And I think in my case, I balance it off with more conscientiousness. If you're fighting through life to get where you are, you bring along a fighting spirit. And so that's what I'm particularly proud of. And even if you come from a basic background, doesn't mean you can't innovate or come up with new ideas. And the last characteristic trait is neuroticism. You have to have a low reaction to stress or a low reaction to negative happenings, because getting through the fight of innovation is a stressful undertaking, and you have to be able to deal with this. And I think this is kind of the person has to come into this kind of a personality kind of description. On the other side, I think the infrastructure you're in or the company you work for can also help pull these kind of innovations or give you the environment with which you can be an innovator. And so 2 concrete examples from BMW. There's multiple innovation programs within BMW. They give you money for your ideas, and they come to you, even more importantly, with this open attitude. So we talked about the wall of skepticism. In such innovation programs, such negativity is shunned upon. So it really is kind of the opposite of, so even if it's mostly mental, it's also partially financial, this kind of openness through innovation programs, accelerators, innovation pitches, and that's how I started the whole e-ink project. Without this little bit of money, through a little bit of a pitch, all of this wouldn't have happened. And I think if you're a conscientious person, there's ways for a company to give a conscientious person tools in order to be conscientious or to drive their idea. And concretely, BMW sponsors the local makerspace where where we can just go in there pretty much without any boundaries and start building and making things. And that was also a key to this particular project.
Well, definitely BMW is known as one of the most innovative companies, so I think the surrounding to come up with an idea or to pitch an idea is ideal in that way. One more question to when we're talking about innovators and how they should be in a way, because I wonder if it was every time the same thing about, well, I'm going in the direction about one innovator and the team. No?
Yeah.
So how much is the team and how much is the one innovator? So I always say like there are no statues in our parks of teams, but solely from mostly one person to run and push the thing forward. But I expect that it might be the same on your side as on my side. It's not. We are nothing without the team. So
absolutely.
How is the well, how do you behave towards your team? So are you a strong leader? Are you more a team leader on eye level? What would be your recommendation? Being very tough in fighting through the idea to get it to the ground, or is it more like on consensus based or to motivate people to go with?
I don't feel equipped to answer that, right? This is my personality trait. I'm not sure that's the optimum leader personality trait. Through the history, I've come into that position, and I'm on eye level with my colleagues who work there. But I'm not sure I'm equipped to give advice there. But what I can say is it's certainly all about the team, for sure. So for this personal project, it was like phase one, which was an awful lot of individual, and then phase two, which is an awful lot of team. And within the phase one, it is a bit of an individual fight, but after that, it's all team. I've hardly hands-on nowadays at all.
No, I get it. Well, we're coming to an end of this beautiful conversation. Probably the question that you have been asked most of the time, after every panel, after every speech. So, you expect what's coming. So when can I buy a car with that possibility of individualizing on colors or interior or whatever? Is this something that is I know it's hard to say, maybe you're not allowed to say, whatever. Is it more like the prototype thing of the power of innovation, or is it more like something that we will have on the street out there someday in real life?
Well, I see potential in both directions. So there's avenues for more innovation in the direction of prototype first. There's ways to push the barrier even a little bit more. And also in the direction of automotive, there's new challenges that are involved there as well. And as a very optimistic, open person, I want to shout from this ceiling that this is all, of course, really but I've learned to tune down my answer there. So we're working.
I read in one interview. I read that you said like 2 years would be too fast, 10 years would be too slow. So
yes, it's very narrow, fenced, narrow window. Exactly. But it's something that we know that people want this, that they like this, and we know the challenges that are involved with this. And if I had shown people this, I don't know, 6 years ago, they would have said no, it's never possible. And so you never know what can be made possible, what previously wasn't.
And other things already going on in your head after you think, like sometimes it's like when I'm pushing ideas forward and the idea is out or almost out, I always think, okay, this is almost out. I can put my mind somewhere else already. Like, or is this too big to get it out of your head until it is really finished? Or is it something relating innovations that are...
It's a good question. So it is still in my head. And just to back that up a little bit, it's not the first idea I had. And I think that's also a common thing of a lot of innovators. They have lots of ideas and most of them fail. It's the same with me. I've failed a lot, right? So in this one, actually, it's kind of working. So I do want to, my head's in it for now, but I'm sure at some stage I will have to move on.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I think we're coming to the end of this conversation. Thank you so much for being here and sharing this wonderful innovation with us and some thoughts about how to become innovative and how to stay innovative and how to really get something through in a world that is honestly not waiting for something that really disrupts the scene. And this is really, so people used to tend to jump on the same things that they know and that they know how to treat with. And so thanks for sharing your ideas and your way to that amazing innovation. Thank you so much, Stella.
Cheers. Thank you so much, Alex.